Daredevil Season 3 is finally here, after 2.5 years of waiting. The first two seasons are some of my favorite Marvel Netflix seasons to date. Jessica Jones Season 1 kind of rounding off the top three. So I was so pumped to see a new season of Daredevil, especially considering the end of Defenders. And I'm just saying this right now, there are going to be major spoilers for the Defenders and Daredevil Season 2 in this review. So after the end of Defenders, Daredevil is presumed dead. The building collapsed on him and Elektra. Elektra is probably 100% dead. And Matt somehow survives. He is saved by the church, the one that he grew up in. And once he finally does get out, he's not the same he used to be. Some part of him in his mind has just realized there's nothing left in terms of trying to do something for the good in terms of justice. What he means to say is that, I mean, whatever I do, locking up people and, trying to get them to the cops, there's no point of it because they don't stay in jail and things are just going from bad to worse. He's basically coming to the point that Frank Castle made in season 2 about he's basically just one bad day away from actually going out and just killing people. And it seems like that bad day has arrived, and just in time too, as Wilson Fisk is being let out of prison. And these are just some minor little things. I understand they might be a little spoilerish, minor wise, but this is the first episode. So really, I'm not giving you anything. This is just the setting the stage stuff. Now, like I said, I was so excited for this season. And now that season 3 is here, I have to ask the question. Why is it that TV right now is doing a lot better than movies in terms of A plus quality? Because we're getting some really good TV right now. BoJack Horseman season 5 was fantastic. Haunting of Hill House, amazing. I just gave that an A plus. Maniac season 1, I just gave that an A plus. And Daredevil season 3 might be my favorite Netflix Marvel season to date. It's really hard for a show to get pretty much consistently better. Heck, I'm one of those people who usually says Daredevil season 2 was arguably better than season 1, even though I have a few other issues with Daredevil season 2 as compared to season 1. That said, that is one of those seasons where I can rewatch season 2 a lot more, mostly because of the Punisher, and I really like the Elektra stuff, even though it was one of the reasons season 2 was a slight bit weaker, I think. But with this season, they've not just topped the first two Daredevil seasons, they might have topped every season we've got from the lineup so far. We actually have a neo-noir crime thriller in this entire season. It's not even a superhero show anymore. Like, it's not even a vigilante show. This is a straight up crime thriller. And my god, is it amazing. This is some of the most complex and intricate storytelling in the MCU so far. And it is still the MCU, even though there's actually no references in this one. Except for one minor thing. In like one of the episodes, there's a reporter who says something, and you can kind of hear what the part of the sentence is, and that's your small little hint. Otherwise, the only other hint you have is if you look at the poster very carefully, if you look in the distance, you can see the Avengers Tower. Aside from that, I mean, you're in a very different universe in terms of the Netflix lineup. They've pretty much made it their own separate thing now. No more connections to the Avengers, no more references here and there, and all the better for it. Because here we get a full-fledged chance to really explore the dark side of the MCU, which is existing over here, and it's amazing. Let's talk about Charlie Cox. He might have done the best he's ever done as Daredevil in this season. This is a very, like I said, different Matt Murdock. This guy has been through so much in his life, and he's having a literal crisis of faith in this season. He's not being able to understand what is happening because of the way, he's been worshiping God his whole life. And yet this is all the stuff that's happened, tragedy after tragedy. He's kind of starting to wonder, is like, do I even care? Or does God even care? Or is anyone even listening? And what is the point of doing this after a while? Like, why am I still up on this? Maybe I should break the rules. Maybe I should go a little more lax in terms of following the law and the rules all the time. Sometimes you just can't do that. You sometimes just have to go the bad way and maybe kill someone to get justice. That side of Matt Murdock, this dark side of him, is very compelling in the entire season because part of you understands that this is the guy you don't want to see. You don't want him to become this murderer. But at the same time, you don't blame him because he's been through so much, including just now with the Defenders, the building falling, and losing Elektra. So he's already in a very bad place. Once Karen and Foggy get involved again, they're trying to figure out what to do, and they're just as bad in this mess as he is. In fact, Karen in this season has a huge story arc because this, in a sense, brings out the flaws in every character. In a way, this is what that season is really about, just bringing out the villainy in everyone. Wilson Fisk is already evil, and we'll talk more about him in a second. But it takes characters who have been established as pretty good here, and they have a working rapport, and they've just been made to be like these very broken, damaged individuals. They're all just getting considerably worse as each episode and each moment goes by. And a lot of secrets about these characters are constantly coming out that just make things a lot worse. Especially, like I said, with Karen, which I'm not going to spoil, but her storyline in this season is tortured. It's explaining a lot of things that have happened and are still happening with her, and you get a very different version of her in this entire season. Sometimes you don't even know whether to root for her when certain things happen. And same thing, like I said, happens with Matt Murdock and Foggy even. Everybody here is having a crisis of faith. This is the one season where you see everyone's flaws. The part where they really try to highlight this, however, is with Ben Poindexter. Now, Bullseye has been done before. We've seen a movie before with Ben Affleck and Colin Farrell playing Bullseye in an amazing scene, which I will demonstrate here.
Drop something.
In that film, Bullseye was more comical and more, over the top cheesy. Here, his origin story is amazing. Also, very tragic, very sad, and you have no idea how to feel for this guy. Because on one hand, again, he's crazy. And that part of your brain is like, yeah, no, this guy doesn't deserve a single moment of redemption. Everything has gone so wrong, yes, but this guy is still doing terrible things. And yet you want him to somehow find a way out. You want him to be better than this because of all that stuff that's happened to him. He's had a very unfair life. And I found his storyline to be very, very compelling. I'm sorry I don't know the actor's name. I will look that up, and whoever the actor is, I mean, I've not seen him in much before, but his performance in this was amazing. He's easily one of my favorite characters of this new season. Also, Vincent D'Onofrio, like I said, the Kingpin is one of my favorite villains in the MCU. Might actually be my favorite villain next to Thanos. Nothing against Thanos. But here, he is the best he's ever been. His performance here is ruthless. This is a very cruel version of the Kingpin, or maybe crueler version of the Kingpin. He wasn't exactly great to begin with, so he's just much, much worse here. And he gets worse as the season progresses. Speaking of things that are great in the season, though, we have to talk about the excellent action sequences. This also has some of the best sequences in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to date. One takes have become a thing with Daredevil season 1 and 2. They're kind of iconic now. This has a one take which beats both of them hollow. In fact, the action sequences in this one beat the first two seasons completely out of the water. Whenever they happen, which happens, there's definitely that. This is more drama based, however, this season. But when you get to the action, it is beautiful. It is well filmed. The choreography, the stunt work is amazing. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that this is what sells a great show. This is what sells a universe. I mean, this is spectacular work. Now, Daredevil has also been one of my favorite written shows of the decades so far. And once again, that carry forwards to this season. Because there's so many cogs being turned, where each conspiracy is peeled out one by one, it's just intricately, it's beautifully handled. This had 5,000 different moments where it could have completely neglected something or not quite done something right. And you see those moments. They're very crystal clear in your viewing of the season. And it never loses sight of them. Even minor little things, they have a bigger impact later on. there's a character in particular in this one named Nadim. He's an agent who's in the FBI. And he has these things which are going on in his life while he's put onto this case of being, handling Wilson Fisk. And as the season progresses and you try to realize what this character is going through and how he's going to figure into the rest of it, it's very compelling. It can feel a little out of place maybe to an extent, but it works really well once you get around to the end of the season, and there's a very compelling arc for his character as well. The soundtrack, once again, is fantastic. This also is probably the best one so far of the three soundtracks. John Paisano, I believe, is the composer. Excellent work. In fact, of this 3 seasons, this is probably the most cinematic. It's shot that way. It looks that way. It sounds that way. The soundtrack is very cinematic. It's kind of the things you'd expect in a big budget Hollywood movie. They've shot a lot of this like a Hollywood movie. It's an impressive feat. I don't personally have major flaws with this season. I have a couple of things, minor things, but I can see one of them being a major one for some people, that being some of the pacing in the first few episodes. This is setting up a stage. So sometimes it takes a while for you to get all of the things together to really get a proper season going, and that can sometimes be a little tedious for some people. I personally didn't mind it, but some people will be turned off by it. Episode 2 in particular is pretty slow, and you'll pause it a couple of times thinking, okay, how much more is left? And you'll see there's 25 more minutes left. And you're like, wow, this is really taking a while. So that can definitely be a little, taxing on you as a viewer. And I understand if that's something you have an issue with. Also, while I mentioned that whole subplot with Nadim is good and all, there are other things that are brought up throughout the season. Sometimes I feel like they matter to a lesser extent compared to some of the bigger picture stuff. And we kind of get a repeat of at times of certain things, certain story beats here and there that we've seen before in previous MCU Daredevil seasons at least. Now, these are things that I can actually look past because the rest of the season around these things is done so well. In fact, I'm going to choose to do that because as it stands, this is probably going to go down as my most favorite Marvel Netflix season so far. I absolutely love the work that they've done here. This is excellent material. I could really go on, but I think at this point I've told you everything that I can to get you hyped up enough for the season and to watch it and to enjoy it for what it is. It's just amazing TV. This is one of the best things right now on it, and I hope this also doesn't get an abrupt cancellation. I really hope this gets a season 4 because wow, I love the storytelling. It's always got my favorite storytelling, the way these stories are told. I mean, I love comic books. I love superheroes. And when you tell their story arcs in a good way, it always makes me happy. And this just did it right. I'm going to give Daredevil Season 3 a very well-deserved A+. Now, let's talk about the Luke Cage Iron Fist thing. Here's my theory on that. Well, number one is viewership has been down a bit. I know for a fact that a lot of people didn't see The Defenders. So there was a lot of confusion on should we even watch the other seasons if we haven't seen The Defenders? And the answer is, I mean, kind of to an extent, but it would be better if you saw The Defenders to get a good context of things. That said, I can understand if some people didn't watch it enough. That's why I highly implore you to keep watching it. Just because you don't have the Avengers in it doesn't mean they're not good. You can tell stories in the MCU without having them have all the flashy superheroes. Sometimes you can just do other things. They might be setting up Heroes for Hire. It makes sense too. They're very famous in the comics. It's even referenced in Luke Cage Season 2, Power Man and Iron Fist. It seems likely that they might just end up doing that. They could do Daughters of the Dragon with Colleen Wing and Misty Knight. I mean, anything's possible because they do have a slate of those shows lined up. Or it could move to the Disney streaming service, but that's unlikely because I think they've said that no mature content is going to be on that particular service. So I'm assuming that they don't want to make Iron Fist or Luke Cage PG-13 all of a sudden, especially since the first two seasons were pretty mature and they're pretty much R-rated seasons. So we'll see what happens. But right now, I'm putting my money on the Heroes for Hire thing. That makes the most sense of the entire lineup. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry this went a little longer. Usually my TV reviews end like 3-4 minutes before this part, but thought I'd get some things out of the way. You guys are the best. Please check out the season and let me know what you think. And as always, if you like this, please do subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the movies.